Okay, hello everyone out there and welcome to today's Fireside Chat. We're very excited to have you with us today. We've got a great speaker who I'll introduce in just a moment. Of course, we'll be covering the topic of Salesforce and rising demand for Salesforce experts in the job market today. I'll be your host. My name is Ryan Ward. I lead demand generation here at Simplilearn on the marketing team. With me today is the founder of the world's most popular Salesforce blog, SalesforceBen.com, a man who has acquired 7 different certifications from Advisor here at Simplilearn. I'd like to welcome Ben McCarthy. Hello, Ben.
Everyone, and hello, Ryan. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Ben. Very excited to get into today's topic.
Me too.
Before we dive in, everyone, just a few quick reminders. If you've ever joined us for a webinar before, you know that we actively monitor your questions here in the WebEx chat window, so feel free to supply us with questions throughout the session, and we're going to leave some time at the end to fit in as many of those questions as we can so we can get you some answers. We're also live on YouTube today, so a big welcome to everyone joining us via YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe while you're there to the Simplilearn YouTube channel to stay up to date on the latest live and recorded events and videos from Simplilearn, like today's Fireside Chat. You can also join us for a live chat on Twitter by following us and tagging @Simplilearn in your tweets. Whether you have a question or want to make a comment about today's session, we encourage you to do so. You can also join us on YouTube Live. Just type Simplilearn into the YouTube search bar and be sure to subscribe to receive alerts for all upcoming YouTube Live events and videos. All right, that's the housekeeping, so let's get started. Ben, maybe you can start by providing us just a little background on yourself and the path you've taken to get to this point in your career.
Sure. So I started off in Salesforce, quite 6 years ago now. And I luckily got a graduate job working for a consultancy, and they kind of trained me up to a decent level where I was able to leave and join a company as Salesforce administrator. I then moved on. I worked for one of the leading app exchange partners called Conga. And then from there, I was working as a business analyst there, dealing with kind of inquiries from lead all the way through to supporting people. And now I'm managing director of Empower UK. We're a consultancy focused on startups, helping people scale with the Salesforce platform.
Fantastic. All right, great. And then just before we dive into kind of, our main topic today, maybe you can give us, for the audience out there who may not know, Salesforce's origin story, how it got to be this gigantic, customer relationship management tool. I'm sitting right by the tower right now in San Francisco, and it just kind of symbolizes how gigantic it's become. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Salesforce has one of those classic kind of startup stories that started out of an apartment, probably not far from you, Ryan, atop Telegraph Hill. Out of an apartment, 2 guys, Parker Harris and Mark Benioff. And they actually founded Salesforce because they wanted to create CRM systems. And at that time, CRM systems were, servers in a basement, which cost millions of pounds. And they wanted to create a CRM system that was as easy to use as Amazon.com. So anyone that's used Salesforce Classic anyway, might kind of remember the tabs across the top. So it's actually modeled a bit on Amazon.com. So when they set out, they wanted to make it as easy to use as Amazon, and that's basically where they came from. Over the years, they started with a kind of sales-focused CRM, but they've acquired and built many, many companies, and now they've turned it into this huge company, which has kind of many streams and many products from sales, service, marketing, all the way up to analytics and things like that. So yeah, real classic startup story, and they've grown massively, done very well.
Yeah. And speaking for San Francisco, you can't go anywhere without seeing the Salesforce cloud icon. No software. All right, well, great. So let's get into the meat of what we want to talk about today. So I think the first thing we should touch on are just some different applications or interesting use cases for Salesforce that you can provide us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at our consultancy, we deal with startups a lot, and the majority of projects are to do with sales, customer service, anything like that. But Salesforce, and this is what I say to all my clients, it literally can be used for anything. So we're dealing with a company that deals with Bitcoins for their KYC process. KYC stands for Know Your Customer, so you've just got to gather information and make sure you do your due diligence before you do any financial transactions with people. So we're building a Salesforce community where they can monitor that. We've also built, just worked with a podcaster advertiser recently to build a system to manage their podcasters, and also built another portal community where their podcasters can log in and interact with their system as well. So although Salesforce is mainly used for its core function, there are so many things that you can use it for. Interestingly enough, our actual consultancy, we've built a lot of things on top of Salesforce. So we've built an expenses app, a time logging app, and more interestingly, we built something we called Empower Airbnb, where people can put their flats on all around Europe, and then people inside the company can apply to stay with them to visit other parts of Europe. So there are a lot of use cases Salesforce can be used for.
Great, and along with that, I guess that creates more job opportunities, not only at Salesforce itself, but at companies that are now using it for more than just a CRM platform. So I think you just touched on a few, but are any new Salesforce professions that are interesting that are out there that people may not know about?
Yeah, what I'd actually say is there are less kind of new positions. So the positions have always been very similar. You've got admin, you've got developer, consultant, technical architect. However, the specializations are becoming even more apparent. So when I started 6 years ago, an admin just had to know Salesforce really, but now people could have a whole host of products. They could have marketing automation, field service lightning, CPQ, and not only that, but they might have lightning installed and something like that. And lightning is quite specialized, and although an admin should know lightning, they might not have a particular expertise in it. So when I'm giving career advice to anyone, I'm one of the kind of main things I say is you really need to stand out and have that specialization. And one of the best ones at the moment is Lightning for that new UI and being ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah, I for everyone out there, I'm a Salesforce user from a marketing standpoint. I've definitely noticed you can toggle back between the Lightning and the Classic, and it does create a new experience. And I think Lightning, they might have got the phrase from light. I mean, it seems a little lighter, a little less busy on the homepage. But yeah, definitely interesting. Speaking of UI and integrations, I think you and I, when we were preparing for this session, talked about Pardot and marketing automation and how Salesforce integrates with that. Now, if you're a Pardot user, you're more than likely going to be also a Salesforce user. So maybe you can touch on the various integrations that Salesforce has with popular marketing automation, email marketing tools, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Salesforce acquired ExactTarget a number of years ago now. I think it was about 6 years ago when I started. And over the years, they've built up really tight integrations with these marketing automation platforms, so Pardot and Marketing Cloud being the main two. However, saying that, if you're out there and you have a product like, off the top of my head, HubSpot or MailChimp or something like that, you'd be behind the times not to integrate with Salesforce. You'd really be blocking yourself into a corner because Salesforce is the world's most popular CRM by quite a margin. I think around 20%, I think, and the closest to that is around 10%. So, if you're not integrating with Salesforce, then you're really doing something wrong. And that's one of the benefits of having Salesforce as well, because whatever other products you have in your software stack, it's most probable that most of them will integrate into Salesforce itself. And if there's not an app readily available, you can build one.
Yeah, definitely. I think along with that, and as you mentioned, it's got a 20% market share that we know of at least. How does it? Why do you think that is? Why has it become so popular? I mean, now it's at a critical mass. There's no stopping it. But what do you think separated it from other competitors when it was first getting its popularity up?
I think it's really innovation. I mean, Forbes have rated Salesforce one of the most. It's got the number one spot quite a few years, number two occasionally. A lot of good companies to compete with nowadays, but yeah, they just constantly innovate. And they've also created this amazing culture around the company and the platform that really kind of brings people together, pushes people to learn more about Salesforce, like the online community and things like that. So, if anyone has any questions or problems or anything like that, there's a place to help you online. I think that kind of coupled with the fact that they've just put so much effort into making their system as easily customizable and integratable as possible, that it's just a clear winner for so many companies. And, ever since they started to, I don't know exactly when, but, have these other product suites like marketing automation or customer service or CPQ, you can start with Sales Cloud or Service Cloud like a lot of people do. And then, the roadmap is there for you. So once you've done sales, let's do service. And then once you've done that, let's do marketing automation. I think other companies, while they might have, a good CRM product, is isolated in the fact that they don't have that roadmap there. And yeah, that coupled with the fact with innovation, Salesforce is a clear winner for a lot of companies.
Yeah. And then I guess it's a good segue now that we've touched on how popular Salesforce is. Obviously, that goes right into demand for actual people who can manage and do these amazing things with Salesforce. So, we look at the topic for today's webinar and the increased demand for Salesforce experts. Why do you think there's a shortage of professionals? I guess what we're saying is supply is not meeting demand yet, but why do you think that is? Is just expanding so fast?
It's interesting because you said a second ago, Salesforce is reaching a critical mass, and I think it is. However, one of the reasons I think possibly there's a shortage, I don't think Salesforce has the household name that its competitors do. Unless you're in the business, you own a company or you work with a company that uses Salesforce, very, very unlikely that you actually know what Salesforce is. It's not a consumer-facing company, even though they're the third largest enterprise software company in the world. So I think, 6 years ago, you asked the average person on the street, I really don't think they know what Salesforce is. I think that really is starting to change, especially that people are in business. So I think it's just that knowledge of it. And, when people find out about Salesforce, they get really excited. And I think we're coming to that fact where people are starting to kind of realize what it is and the power that it has. And also it powers a lot of interesting companies. Like at Dreamforce, there was the showcases where I think T-Mobile, 21st Century Fox, and Adidas. So, all of these big brands around the world are using Salesforce, and I think it's coming to light, well, in the near future, I think we will reach a critical mass of people now realizing what Salesforce is and how powerful it is, and also that there's anyone can have an amazing career out of it as well.
Yep, absolutely. So just to wrap up this part of getting to know Salesforce, if we could just kind of wow people with some of the bigger clients and use cases for Salesforce across the globe. I'm sure there are some really big names that buy Salesforce.
Yeah, so the ones I just mentioned, so T-Mobile, Adidas, 21st Century Fox, Barclays and Coca-Cola have got some very, very high-profile implementations. Unilever are one. Most of the big pharma companies, I think in fact all of them, use Salesforce. I couldn't find the exact statistic, but I did hear it somewhere that it's about 90% or 95% of the Fortune 100 actually use Salesforce. So,
not surprising.
It's big.
Yeah. So I after touching on the popularity of Salesforce, and I think you mentioned, if you may not know about Salesforce, you get a job, maybe it's your first job in the business world, whether it's in marketing, sales, operations, you find out what Salesforce is, and you kind of go, okay, wow. Somebody tries to give you, as a part of your onboarding, maybe, the writing on a whiteboard and try to explain to you how objects and lead records and contact records and reports work, and you're just like, whoa. So maybe you can give us an idea of what tools and resources are out there to help people, one, get familiar, and two, to really develop their skills. Obviously, Simplilearn is one, but we're not afraid for you to touch on any others out there. Simplilearn more aligns to the certification, right, which can help you get a more advanced job in the Salesforce world. But yeah, if you can talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, Salesforce has always been very open. It hasn't been hiding its material behind Chinese walls. It's been very open in providing that because it wants people to learn it, but they want people to get into the industry. So there's always been, developer orgs have always been free. You can sign up for a developer org right now and get access to Salesforce and start practicing. So there's free tools such as that. And Trailhead is an obvious kind of winner that's come around in recent times. So Trailhead is kind of geared towards people learning the Salesforce platform. And I think actually the reason it came about is because Salesforce have a bit of a problem where IDC released a paper for the last couple of years. The most recent one was released in October that said by 2022, they expect 3.3 million jobs to come into the Salesforce ecosystem. So not just Salesforce themselves, but the partners, the users that actually use Salesforce. And Salesforce do have a problem. If they want to grow at the rate they're growing, which is about 25%, 30% year on year, they have to enable the general market out there to be able to learn Salesforce. So Trailhead is really good for learning Salesforce. However, if you want to get certified, there are resources out there. Simplilearn is a great one. So Simplilearn is a pre-packaged course that is very focused on getting you certified. The two main ones are the administrator and the platform app builder and developer, I believe, as well now. So these are geared towards you getting your certification, while Trailhead is geared towards you learning about the Salesforce platform. So whatever kind of budget you have, there's something out there for you. Whether that's no budget at all, there is things out there, or if you have a bit of money to play around with, you can really gear yourself up to learn about Salesforce, but also most importantly, get certified. Got
it. Yeah. So it sounds like Trailhead more to get up to speed, ramp up, so you can do the core competencies of your job, and then something like a Simplilearn to really develop your skills and help you start advancing up that career ladder.
Yeah, precisely.
So speaking of Simplilearn, what we offer, how can people use Simplilearn's training courses to get up to speed and train quickly? That is to say, how does Simplilearn's training, work?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of different material, some of it written, some of it videos, and it's all self-paced. So if you're looking to get certified very quickly, you could probably do it in a week. Crash course, do it in a week, and use take the certification online or go to a test center. Or if you want to space it out, you've got a full-time job, then it enables you to do that. So as mentioned, the course is really geared to you getting your certification. So Salesforce material for its certification can be found on Salesforce U's website, Salesforce University. And there you'll find that each certification is broken down into very distinct areas. One might be security, process automation, that kind of thing. Simplilearn's course is geared towards those exact groups of knowledge you need to learn. So yeah, I was very impressed when I saw it.
Yeah. And I think you just touched on this, but I was going to pose to you, when it comes to learning Salesforce, how might someone that is very interested, they're now familiar with Salesforce, maybe they've taken some free training, maybe they've taken some of Simplilearn's, but we've kind of identified these major avenues that you can go down with Salesforce: administrator, developer, or the platform app builder. How might someone look at those and determine what's right for them?
So there is some overlap, but it's pretty distinct, kind of different. So I mean, all three of those are, I guess, entry-level kind of certifications. So the administrator is very geared to standard functionality on Sales and Service Cloud, but there is an element of extending it with, any Salesforce implementation needs to be customized to fit for the business. So the administrator does have an element of customization, extending the Salesforce platform with declarative functionality. So declarative meaning no code. Platform App Builder is all geared towards extending the Salesforce platform with declarative functionality. So less to do with the standard features like quoting or managing your leads, managing your pipeline, but how do I use process automation to completely automate business processes and things like that. While the developer certification is geared towards programmatic customizations of Salesforce. So using Apex or Visualforce, which is Apex is Salesforce's programming language, and Visualforce is the custom UI language. So it's geared towards using that to extend the Salesforce platform. So they're kind of three very distinct, but if you're looking to get ahead in Salesforce and looking to progress your career, you really need all three. An admin needs to, an admin might not necessarily know how to code, so that might be a bit tough, but if you're a developer, you do need to know about the standard configuration, because, why would you go about building something completely custom if you're not aware of a bit of standard functionality which is there and will do it for you. So yeah, all three are very important to know. But saying that, admins should be aware of what is available to a developer. So when will they need a developer to extend functionality?
Got it. So someone that is maybe on this webinar now as an attendee is interested in going down this career path. Where would someone, what's a job title or role that someone new to the world of Salesforce could expect to start? They're fresh out of college, university. They maybe have none or 1 year of actual business experience. Where can they expect to start?
So, the kind of job titles, I guess, would be the ones we've just touched on. So, admin, consultant, or developer, or something like that. Junior, or put the words graduate in front of it, something like that. Because it's not just graduates that can get into Salesforce. It's actually anyone that thinks there's value in it and likes the kind of responsibilities you'll be undertaking. However, saying that, there are a lot of other roles available to you. For example, sales operations, sales administrator, or something like that. So actually maybe less on the Salesforce side, but assisting more on the business process side. And if that is available to you, go ahead, because that gives you exposure to Salesforce, but also the business process side. And anyone that's involved in a more, less of the kind of developer route, but more of the business side and the customization of Salesforce, really needs to understand how businesses work, how sales processes work, how customer support processes work. All of that kind of adds up to being very knowledgeable and effective at your Salesforce job. So yeah, those are three pretty good routes to start off: administrator, developer, or going down the consultancy route. Okay.
And in terms of companies that are more likely to give you that type of opportunity, I have an idea of what that looks like, but just so we can be clear to the audience, the types of companies that might hire someone entry level and have the opportunities for them there, obviously as a Salesforce customer, but they can offer kind of a growth path for someone who wants to build a Salesforce career.
Yeah, if you found out that a company has Salesforce, it's always worth seeing if they need some extra help or something like that. Also, consultancies are very, very good. That's where I started out. It's where a lot of my friends started out in Salesforce. The reason consultancies are so good is because consultancies find it very easy to train people up on Salesforce. It is very easy to learn the platform. The things, it's for an admin, it's all point and click. So, add new fields, create a process automation, things like that. And when you're surrounded by Salesforce consultants, that knowledge is very easy to pick up. So consultancies like doing that because they can train people up very quickly and they can put them on projects straight away, with supervision. Another good place to look is non-for-profits. So Salesforce actually gives 10 free licenses to any non-for-profit that wants it, which is obviously amazing. And it's Salesforce always been built to give back to the community. So that's one thing. However, non-for-profits, they often don't have bags of money lying around to pay expensive consultancies. So if you're looking for an entry-level job, that's also a very, very good place to start. And we might touch on this in a bit, but if you're looking for experience as well, that's also a very good, even if it's pro bono, working for a charity, a non-for-profit, is a great way to get experience. And they might also have a job on offer. So yeah, those are some good places.
Yeah, and then you're in that state. You want to go find that job to get you in. It's most people now these days are job hunting online. What are the job titles that aside from searching job title contains Salesforce, but what are some of those entry level job titles look like?
I think it is kind of they're pretty self-explanatory, like admin consultant.
I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, no, you do get the ones like, as I mentioned before, like sales ops. But saying that, in job descriptions, you know, there's a lot of weird titles flying around nowadays. So it's always worth, you know, searching Salesforce and looking at the actual job description, because there's a lot of different words for sales ops administrator or something like that. You know, assisting the sales team with their deals and with Salesforce and improving business processes and things like that. So you know, the title might be something odd, but in the description it might actually say, you know, one of your responsibilities is to customize Salesforce, improve business processes, work with a Salesforce administrator to, you know, improve Salesforce, things like that. So yeah, it's always worth looking into the job a bit deeper than just the title.
Yeah, and I think I brought this up just a second ago, that most of these jobs that you're going to find in the Salesforce world will be posted online, as most jobs are these days. But what platforms, online job markets, might you suggest people start looking at, whether it's LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've pretty much named the top ones. What I would also say is that because Salesforce is such a hot market, recruiters are having an absolutely great time, because you know you know, companies need Salesforce professionals, and usually using job boards, you know, you know, you get applicants, but you have to sort through them yourself and stuff like that, and recruiters kind of take over that responsibility. And that is very expensive for companies. However, for candidates, you know, that's a fantastic opportunity. I would say speak to recruiters, build up, you know, a nice network. You know, speak to recruiters and find out what they can do for you, because, you know, some are better than others. Find one that's really invested in growing you and can work with you a long time, because they will go out there and they'll find 10 jobs that are potential good match for you, and then you can pursue them. So yeah, get them to do the work. Yeah,
and then, you know, you're reaching out to these recruiters, or they're reaching out to you, and as you mentioned, recruiters are having a great time, meaning there are a lot of people that want to do this. They're out there. How might someone make themselves stand out in that, you know, resume, cover letter process? You know, aside from being very explicit, I really want to develop my Salesforce skills, I'd like to do it for your company, but maybe they have existing skills, whether they're fresh out of college or have a little work experience, but what might those kind of soft skills look like that might, you know, lend themselves to a Salesforce career and allow someone to stand out in that application process?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, because I think a lot of people might underestimate their soft skills, and what actually, you know, a lot of people focus on the technical and go, you know, I've done X badges on Trailhead or I got certifications and things like that, which is obviously great. But, you know, if anyone's been in a sales job, which a lot of people have, because it's often an entry-level job, you know, just understanding that sales process is a massive bonus, because, you know, Salesforce at its core, well, its core system is the Sales Cloud. And, you know, understanding how salespeople work, how they think, how they use systems is very valuable. So if you ever worked in sales, work with salespeople, then, you know, shout about that a bit. Also client-facing, you know, if it's consultancy, anything you've done which is client-facing, you know, is going to be extremely important. But what I'd say, soft skills are very important. You know, they are very comparable to the technical skills. And you know, I've always said, and especially when I'm hiring people, you know, I'd much rather work with someone that's easygoing, willing to learn, rather than someone who might be a bit better on the technical side, but it's a bit hard to work with. So yeah, definitely focus on those soft skills, and anything like client-facing sales or customer support as well. If you're applying for someone using Service Cloud or even marketing, you know, any exposure you've had before is all great.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. As someone who has used Salesforce in marketing capacity, it's not just the technical skills that make you stand out. I mean, when you use Salesforce, you're talking about stakeholders in your company from all over. You have operations, you have sales leaders who rely on Salesforce data to look at every day to see how the company's doing, leads-wise, revenue-wise. So you definitely do get pinged by a lot of different people with a lot of different, you know, interests in terms, and like you said, Salesforce is used more and more across the organization in today's world. So yeah, thanks for pointing out those kind of interpersonal and soft skills that someone might need to rely upon to be successful with Salesforce. We're going to get into the real demand right now, and I think we're going to also call out some salary expectations for the participants today. But let's just start with this segment with how safe is a Salesforce career in terms of job prospects and demand? I think we made it a little obvious to this point, but you can speak to that.
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Salesforce is growing 25 to 30% year on year, and every time they grow, I think people, there's Salesforce themselves, obviously, and they're growing. But then there's the customers they're bringing on board, and these customers are usually growing as well. People at Salesforce sell that, you use their products and it will help your business grow, increase revenue. So these customers are growing, and they need more Salesforce personnel to support that. And they've also got their app exchange ecosystem, which I don't know how many apps it's got, but hundreds of applications. And each application is run by a company which needs other support. So, and then you have consultancies on top of that. So the ecosystem is huge, and it's growing very, very fast. So I would say the job market is extremely safe. I don't want to say it's 100% foolproof, but I think something very important to note is that, let's just say, 10, 15 years time, there's a Salesforce killer or something like that. The skills you're learning becoming a Salesforce admin, consultant, developer, whatever, are extremely transferable. Salesforce is a system at the end of the day. So when you're learning about business process, re-engineering, and gathering user requirements and things like that, if a Salesforce killer did come out, which I find very unlikely, it would be another system you had to learn. But essentially, all these skills you picked up would be extremely valuable elsewhere. So, it's not just focusing on Salesforce here, but maybe in a few years you do get fed up and you're looking for another challenge, or you want to switch to another industry, and the skills you're picking up are completely invaluable. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, as promised, I'm going to call out some expected salaries. We have data for the U.S. and India. So, we've touched on Salesforce administrator as being you'd say, in terms of specific Salesforce careers, more the entry level, the less advanced maybe of a developer and platform builder. Would you say that, Dan?
Maybe. I mean, it's not less. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your background. I'd probably put all three of them kind of on the same level.
Okay. Well, for Salesforce administrators in the U.S., Indeed.com gives us a $90,000 a year salary estimation, and in India that looks like 410,000 rupees per year for a Salesforce administrator. And we also have data on Salesforce developer from Indeed.com, $109,000 in the U.S. and 510,000 rupees in India. Just to give those of you out there a bit of an expectation. Of course, that information is available online for you to look at and find for yourself. But we did want to call that out if anybody out there was, weighing one or the other, literally right now. There you go. To tie this up, say you have, 5 or more years of real-world business experience. Maybe it's not in Salesforce. Let's say not in Salesforce, but you're familiar with it. But now you've attended this fantastic Fireside chat and you were very interested in it. What are the ideal backgrounds for the 3 main job titles we're talking about: administrator, developer, and app builder?
So what I would say is that, what the first thing to say is, if you're not from a background of 5 years or anything like that, Salesforce is still a very viable option for you. With Trailhead, Salesforce has started this Trailblazer campaign where they highlight stories where people have, maybe not had the best job, not been happy in it, haven't progressed their career in quite a few years, and then they've learned Salesforce using Trailhead, and now they're earning, 6 figures, as you pointed out. So, those are pretty amazing stories where people have not come from a tech background. Saying that, though, there are definitely backgrounds where, you're maybe better placed to, or you pick up Salesforce quicker. So if you're a developer, Apex is very similar to Java. So if you're a Java developer or you understand languages like Java, switching over to Salesforce is going to be pretty painless. It's not going to be too bad. You might need to take a cut in salary or something like that, but once you learn Salesforce, that cut will almost definitely be made up over the next few years. So, I mean, backgrounds, I would say, again, anyone in sales or who understands business process, you know, very well placed to become an administrator or a platform app builder. From a developer, yeah, anyone who understands coding or anything like that, or even if you don't, you know, it is a challenge to learn coding, and I think that's where the difference in salary comes, because, you know, being able to code is a very in-demand skill at the moment. But I mean, at the end of the day, Salesforce is a database. That's all it is. So any background in computer science, no matter what it is, you'll probably have a little bit of a leg up there just because you understand how a database works.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We're to that point in our chat today where we're going to field some of these great questions that have been coming in. I see one that ties into kind of what we've been talking about in the last few minutes. Someone posed a question: what demands a higher salary, a typical developer role or a consultant developer? So in-house versus consultants. What have you seen in the job market?
That's a good question, actually. I was trying to think of some figures off the top of my head. I would say pretty similar, because, I mean, you say consultant developer, the job is kind of similar. You're not necessarily client-facing. So, you know, a developer in a big company, I mean, you know, big companies usually have developers. You know, you're working on customer requirements, but that customer is your, you know, one customer. If you're in a consultancy, you're working on multiple customer requirements, but essentially, you know, you're not client-facing. So I would say pretty similar. However, if there was an edge, I would probably say if you're a developer in a consultancy, you probably will have a little bit of a leg up on people who are working for an end user.
Okay. And then from your standpoint,
actually, just to add on to that, we've got a few developers in our company that really want to become client focused. So now they are meeting clients and things like that. And you know, that is verging onto the area of becoming a technical architect. You can definitely become a technical architect from learning within an end user. But I think possibly you might be able to do it quicker from a consultancy. So I think possibly the opportunity is a bit greater in a consultancy than it is an end user.
Yeah, and along with that, I think it might have been the same person out there who asked the question, what do you see as the pros and cons as a developer in-house or client-facing versus consultants? Okay. You know.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, no, I would say that if you want to learn as much as possible and you want to accelerate your career as much as possible, join a consultancy. Because, you know, I've worked for an end user and I loved it, and it was great fun. I learned a lot. However, in a consultancy, it's a lot more demanding. You do get paid more, especially if you're moving from an admin to a business analyst consultant, you will get paid more. But you know, you're dealing with so many different customers, so many different requirements, different use cases of Salesforce, and in all honesty, it is more stressful. However, I think the opportunity to learn from a consultancy is a lot greater than an end user. But then again, it depends on the end user. You know, the end user I worked for was relatively small. But if you're working for a developer for Barclays or something like that, you know, I can't imagine that being too dissimilar from working in a consultancy, because you're going to have requirements from loads of different departments, like it was loads of different clients. So I would always say to people, you know, if you want to take on as much as physically possible and learn as much as physically possible, then go to a consultancy.
Okay, yeah, that's great. We had a question posed. How do you get opportunities related to Salesforce when you're fresh out of college or university? Because most businesses that are hiring for those roles, like a lot of jobs that people fresh out of college find, require 2 to 3 years experience minimum. So if you're so interested in that, I think we touched on, you know, the free options in terms of training, Salesforce. Simplilearn training in Salesforce for kind of getting that certification you can slap on your resume and stand out. But you know, you're fresh out of college. What might you do in lieu of 2 to 3 years of experience to try to get that job?
Yeah, I mean, it is, you know, it is a challenge, but there are routes out there. So someone actually wrote a post on my blog a couple of weeks ago called "How Do I Get Salesforce Experience?" And the things he pointed out was some of the things I have. So trying to find a charity or a non-profit you can volunteer for. That is always appreciated. It will demonstrate, you know, you can work with real life clients. Trailhead is obviously a good one. You know, it's demonstrating you have 100 badges or something like that. You know, I think does impress hiring managers. Probably not as much as experience. It's probably just under, you know, volunteering for a real life non-profit. In addition to that, you've got super badges on Trailhead, which are much bigger challenges and actually are kind of like real world problems. So there's that as well. I'd also recommend, you know, trying to apply to consultancies because, as I said, especially in the UK market, people are very, very willing to take on people with no experience but have the right mindset, the right drive. If you have computer science background or, you know, you can get exposure to that, that's probably a bonus because they know for a fact they can, very bluntly, they can train you up very quickly and bill you out for quite a lot of money. So, you know, it's a win-win for them and win for you because you get trained up and you're in a perfect environment for it. So I would say those are a few options you can explore.
Okay, very good. We have clearly have a sales user out there because the question, how can I increase my sales using Salesforce, was posed. Probably not as easy as that, but maybe you can speak to the streamlined processes and how, you know, using a platform so advanced Salesforce can make your job easier as a salesperson, focus more on the revenue generating activities.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, I mean, you know, this is why people implement Salesforce. They want to increase their revenue at the end of the day. You know, it's usually the sales team driving it, or the sales manager, or someone like that. And I mean, if you compare kind of two ends of the spectrum, like Excel and Salesforce, you know, Excel, you're just entering data, but it's giving you no insights. It's just like a notepad. You might as well be writing it in a phone book. But Salesforce has a lot of functionality and features out of the box to help you manage things. So you can manage your leads. You can ensure that sales reps are qualifying leads with a minimum amount of information before you can progress them on to the next step. Then you've got opportunity management. You can connect to your inbox, so you can log emails. You've got forecasting, so you can see, you know, what stage your deals are in and where they're getting held up. And then you've also got very, very powerful reporting module at Salesforce that, you know, you can dig into why aren't deals progressing, what's the common reason we're losing deals. All of this stuff is relatively easy to set up. You know, you do need some Salesforce knowledge to do it, but you know, a consultancies generally call these quick starts, where we go in and we set it up very quickly for your business and customize it. So yeah, there's a lot of quick wins with Salesforce, and when you compare it to something like Excel, you really understand why you're paying this money for a system like Salesforce. Okay.
Yeah. And then to switch, we have another question that's more on the technical side. In which programming language was Salesforce developed? You know?
I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, I would presume Apex.
So let me pose this to you then. Can we assume that knowledge of HTML and Java would lend themselves to where, I think you've already touched on Apex, yeah. Java being similar. HTML is more of a web-facing language, but maybe any other coding languages that you think might lend themselves to a Salesforce?
I mean, any knowledge with APIs and connecting other systems is extremely valuable because I would say most projects, maybe not most, but maybe 40% of projects we deal with will have some form of custom integration that our developers are dealing with. So that, you know, that is any skill set around the APIs is very valuable. Java, as you mentioned, HTML and CSS is JavaScript actually is what Lightning is built on, so that's very valuable. HTML and CSS is required to some degree when you're dealing with communities, building external sites, or if some aspects of Visualforce actually require some CSS knowledge as well. So, you know, but then saying that, you know, I'm pretty sure Apex is an object-oriented language like Java. So any kind of object-oriented language that people have got experiences in is going to be very transferable to learning Apex.
Very good. Very good. And someone had posed a question. I don't know if this is possible, but they requested any way they can download Salesforce code to play around with it. This is beyond my technical expertise, so you tell me if that.
Download Salesforce code. I mean, the main
source code,
I mean, the main way you can start playing around with Salesforce is sign up for a developer org. You can do it right now. Type into Google Salesforce developer org, and you can sign up right away, and within 5 minutes you'll have access to your own Salesforce environment. This Salesforce environment actually has like every single feature enabled. So I think it's only got 2 user licenses, so you can't really go away and start using it for your actual business. But there are restrictions on it, but it has most features available. You can start writing code. You can start playing around with the declarative features. You can enable products, like you can enable Service Cloud. I think my colleague enabled Field Service Lightning the other day in an org, so you can start playing around with that. So while you can't like download the Salesforce source code, it's all hidden. You can get access to a developer org straight away, and then you can connect that into Trailhead. And if anyone doesn't know what Trailhead is, it's kind of a challenge-based system where it will say, go away and implement this automation process. So you can go away and do that, press check. It will actually check your developer org to make sure you've done it correctly and then give you points and things like that. So yeah, very powerful for knowing actually if you're doing things right or not.
Okay. And then to bring it back to the Simplilearn training offering, what kind of eligibility or prerequisite knowledge might someone need to enroll in one of our courses? Anything?
Not a huge amount. I mean, it goes through, from the basics to the more advanced. So, I mean, I would say, have a look around, make sure Salesforce is the right career for you. Maybe log into a developer or do a few trailheads, but not a massive amount, really. Simplilearn's course does go through everything from the basics all the way up to some of the more advanced things.
Great. All right. Well, Ben, we have run through our questions. And I think we covered a lot of great stuff. Is there anything that I've missed that you think might be worth knowing for the audience out there? I think we spanned quite a bit of topics.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say is that I tell a lot of people, even some of my friends and family, go look into Salesforce, see if it's right for you. And a lot of people kind of go, yeah, okay, I'll have a look into it and kind of forget about it. But it is a very, very rewarding career, and talk to maybe get a few. There must be someone that who's involved with it, or message me on Twitter or something like that. But it's a very, very rewarding career, and it's very rewarding in a kind of personal sense and financially as well. So I'd say if you're on this webinar and you're kind of thinking about it, kind of find that motivation from somewhere to really look into it, sign up for developer org, sign up for Simplilearn, sign up for Trailhead, and really push forward and try and land yourself a job, because this industry isn't slowing down anytime soon. And the quicker you can get into it, the quicker you can start reaping the rewards.
Great. We did have one final question come in before we start to wrap things up. What kind of opportunities are there for someone who is fairly advanced in IT, a very technical professional? 15 years is what this participant asked. What avenue might they go down if they've worked in IT and they've said, okay, you know what, I'm going to focus in on Salesforce, great job opportunities?
I would say, you kind of have to take the same route as everyone else, which is by signing up to Trailhead, developer org, and possibly Simplilearn if you want to get certified. I think the difference is your learning curve will just be massively accelerated. And if you've got 15 years in industry, I think you'd be able to, land yourself a job a lot quicker than maybe someone who is starting from scratch, because, you'll fundamentally understand how developing languages work, how computer science works. So yeah, I would just say kind of take the same path I've mentioned, but if you've got 15 years, you're going to have no problem landing a job once you've got certified or you've got kind of that base foundation knowledge.
Yeah. And then someone also asked about JavaScript knowledge. I think you've touched on that. That lends itself very well to Salesforce as well. To
Lightning, yeah, it is. So that's actually we didn't have a huge amount of expertise in JavaScript in our consultancy, but we've just got someone who knows it very well. And that's mean we can do a load more projects in Salesforce Lightning. So if you've got JavaScript knowledge, that will really, really help you with one of Salesforce's newest and best features. So yeah, that's a great one to have.
Okay. Great. Well, we're gonna cut the questions off there, just in the interest of time. I think I mentioned at the beginning, all of your questions will be answered either offline directly with you or in our wrap-up blog. And to make sure you receive that, you're going to want to head to our resources page on the Simplilearn.com website. We organize our resources and articles and blogs and things by category. So Salesforce is a category where you will find Ben contributing frequently blogs and webinars just like this that are great resources. Thank you again to Ben McCarthy for being here with us and providing wonderful input on the demand for Salesforce experts. We hope that everyone listening is walking away with some great takeaways on how to develop a Salesforce career. So thank you, Ben.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And everyone, don't forget to follow Ben McCarthy on Twitter. His handle is @SalesforceBen. And for more Salesforce career advice and best practices, we definitely encourage you to follow his personal blog, salesforceben.com, which I will take a short time to type into the chat window here so that people can link right to it. There we go. Not on the WebEx side, but for those of you joining from YouTube, SalesforceBen, just like it sounds, B-E-N at the end, .com. If you find him on Twitter, you can find the link to his blog as well. If you are interested in a career as a Salesforce developer, admin, platform builder, etc., check out Simplilearn's Salesforce training page on our website. You can just go to Simplilearn.com and search in the search bar there at the top, Salesforce. As a reminder to our audience, you can catch this Fireside Chat instantly on our YouTube channel. So those of you who joined us live, you will be able to repeat this webinar very shortly. Just head over to YouTube, for those of you who aren't there yet, and search for Simplilearn, and you will find our channel and our live webinars. And don't forget to subscribe while you're there to the Simplilearn channel to stay in the loop for future webinars and videos. And for those of you who joined with WebEx, we'll be sending you a recorded version of this via email within the next week. If you have further questions that didn't get addressed during today's chat, please tweet us at Simplilearn or comment on the YouTube video using the instructions I just provided. Go to YouTube, type in Simplilearn, and someone from Simplilearn will help get that answered for you. We'll also, as I mentioned, address all questions in an upcoming wrap-up blog that will be posted very soon on our resources page. You head to Simplilearn.com and you find that resources button on the top. Also in the resources section, you can find all of our upcoming webinars and events. And we also encourage you to check us out on Facebook. We've got a lot of great content posted there every single day. So thank you again, Ben. It was a pleasure and had a lot of fun doing this.
Me too. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.